When the factory closed, it wasn't just the people that worked at the factory that felt the impact of it. The whole community did.
There were people who were just absolutely convinced that the town was going to dry up and blow away.
We have become disconnected from who we're serving and what we're trying to do. I think we don't do our best work and are not our best selves when we put the technology first.
This country was built on blood, sweat, and tears, not microchips, gold-plated circuit boards, and everything else.
Webster City, Iowa. Population, 8,000.
Everybody's friendly. You can walk up to any random person and talk to them, and they're going to be more than happy to stop and have a conversation with you.
Step into Kay's bar and you'll find a gathering place. Locals who were born and raised in a small town where you can't leave without hearing the phrase,
Iowa nice.
Yeah,
Iowa nice.
Sure.
Yes.
I'm dealing with New York nice. It's very different.
It was my first time in Iowa, and in true Iowa nice fashion, Kay welcomed me with open arms to the bar she owns with her husband. Seneca Street Saloon is where Webster City locals spend their good days. But for many in this town, the bad days aren't far behind. For 73 years, Webster City was home to an Electrolux factory. It employed as many as 2,300 people. But on March 31st, 2011, the factory shut down, relocating those jobs to Mexico. The move left this small town reeling, with many out of work, and bars like Kay's less crowded.
People would come down and have a couple of beers or have dinner on their break, and all that went away.
Jeff Pingle worked here for nearly 20 years. Once a factory, a town's livelihood, now just a gated field. He took me to what used to be Electrolux.
I can still see like the aisles and the machines and how the lines were laid out. I mean, I can even probably almost step off to exactly where the front door was at. It's a weird feeling.
You get nostalgic thinking about what it was like before.
If you've ever worked in a factory environment, it's like its own little community within this community. I miss that. I miss the group. There's a few of them still around, but most of them have moved on and found jobs elsewhere. It's just the nature of the beast.
This place very much helped this town get by.
For a long, long time. Husband and wives, I mean, talk about putting all your eggs in one basket. I did. I was gonna work here until forever,
Having your livelihood here in this factory and health insurance and your kid's future wrapped up here, when that gets pulled out from under you, I can imagine that would just be horrific.
You feel your heart literally jump into your throat. I mean, when they made the first announcement, it's just a shock. One lady had just bought a house and she grabbed her hair and pulled out handfuls of hair. And when we picked it up, she pulled out so much hair that it had chunks of flesh in it. I mean, it just was devastating to people.
How often do you come here?
Never.
Never?
Never.
It made an impact on retail. It made an impact on the grocery stores because no one knew for sure what was coming.
Many tell me the low point came when the downtown theater, a gathering place for the community, closed its doors.
After the theater closed, there were no cars downtown on Main Street anymore. You drove through and it was just cold and ugly and gave you a sense of despair.
People kept saying, you got to sell your house, you got to move, it's going to be a ghost town.
Well, there were people who were just absolutely convinced that the town was going to dry up and blow away.
But that's only part of the story. Today's an exciting day for Webster City. Jack Dorsey, the entrepreneur behind Square and Twitter, is in town for a special event.
Jack, what was appealing to you about this place?
Everything. The people, the resilience, the spirit, the sunset on my first night, and everything about it. You get the sense and vibe that there's a lot of care, there's a sense of community. It feels very tangible. But how the community rose up to make itself better is something we need to see all over the country.
Dorsey's technology has become a part of this town's narrative. When Electrolux closed, many people who lost their jobs started building out their own small businesses. And Dorsey told me he was excited to learn that many of them were taking payments through his platform, Square.
This is a good case study and a good model for how I think we can continue to invest in small cities and small towns and small communities.
A coffee shop, a vintage store. Square says over 40 Webster City businesses have started to rely on its technology. That led Dorsey to take notice, and Square even sent a film crew to capture the town's revitalization. A turning point came when Jeff rallied the town to help reopen the theater as a nonprofit.
I was on the street talking to anyone that would listen. Nice to meet you. And the more people that told me no, the more I was digging in my heels.
You know, some people would give money. Other people came down and helped to work a little bit.
Square helped sponsor the effort and also set up a cash tag for its users to donate.
That night we flipped that light switch on that Marquis. It's like we hit him with the hind. People were crying. It was just so emotional.
There was electricity in the air.
What was that night like?
We all cried.
Here today, a whole town gathered to watch the film created by Square and celebrate the fact that not only is Webster City still standing, small business is thriving.
Square are really proud to show off this town and this theater. So with that, let's watch.
Webster City, it's a close-knit community.
When the Marquis lit up, it was a sign of hope.
This is going to be the spark that will light up our darkness.
Well, thank you for what you've done. I'm not even from Webster City. I just use it. So much here for some other time.
But after the excitement, the pain is still palpable in the face of a resilient town.
Today, I'm getting stopped on the street by someone who says, I lost my job too. Today, there's this real sense of pain and resilience and a reality. When our cameras go away and when the founder of Twitter goes away, there are some complicated questions that this city has to answer.
Dorsey introduced me to one of the businesses using his technology, a local coffee shop. After the celebration, I went back to meet the owner. I started to get the sense that everyone in this town has a connection to the shutdown of Electrolux. For Sean Anderson, it's deeply personal. A job at the factory meant health insurance for his sick wife, but he was laid off just 2 days before his benefits kicked in.
Luckily for me, we got laid off on Friday, and by Monday I had found a new job. So a couple months after I went to work there, then we got a health insurance started from that company, and she was diagnosed with leukemia. That ended up being a 5-year battle with trying to save her life, but it didn't work. I don't call her a funeral, but we had a ceremony for her, part of here's South of Town. She was certainly well loved.
You can sense it.
Yeah. My tattoo says, love what you have, love what you have lost.
It's a reminder of Sean's past and his present. He has since fallen in love again. Together, he and his wife Laura have built out the business. They have plans to turn the upstairs into a venue for weddings and parties.
It's funny what direction lives can take and change and turn in ways you never would have thought or dreamt of. But you try to keep a positive outlook on life, it comes back around.
He still works 2 jobs to make ends meet. A second job offers benefits for his family until the coffee shop is successful enough for Sean and Laura to afford those things on their own. But in the meantime, Sean and other Webster City business owners see technology as an asset, helping their businesses grow. And while the theater may be resurrected, the jobs this town lost to Electrolux aren't coming back.
These factory jobs, they're going overseas, or they're not even going to exist years from now because of automation, robots. Do you want them back?
I would never want us to put 10% of our community's welfare reliant on one entity.
Around the country, a fundamental change is happening. Jobs are being outsourced, but they're also disappearing as automation takes hold. PwC estimates that by 2032, 38% of the jobs in the United States are at a high risk of becoming automated. The technology built in Silicon Valley will have repercussions in small towns like Webster City. While a shift towards robotics and artificial intelligence has the potential to displace traditional jobs, entrepreneurs like Dorsey think technology can also give folks new opportunities when it comes to the future of work. It's one of the areas where Silicon Valley and Middle America agree.
You're running 2 companies, you're a busy guy, but you're here and you're really spending time with folks. You've even brought your parents, right? It certainly seems like there's something about these communities that are in your DNA and that you almost feel like a certain responsibility to.
I grew up in Missouri. It's the show me state. I like coming and visiting and actually seeing things with my own eyes. And I think, you know, there's a realization that we have become disconnected from who we're serving and what we're trying to do. I think we don't do our best work and are not our best selves when we put the technology first and when we put the tool first. We have to remember, like, these are things meant to be used, and they're meant to be used by people.
We are at this very pivotal point where automation and technology will remove some of these jobs. What do you think the future is for these folks who will inevitably be left behind?
I think it's a fixed mindset to say that they'll inevitably be left behind. And I think that's what we have to get over. We need to take on, you know, more that growth mindset of, like, we need to constantly learn and constantly teach. Where one effort goes away, another is created in its place, and I believe that. But it does take work, and it does take responsibility of our companies, of our organizations, of our governments to help prepare people and to get them ready and to get out of this fixed mindset of, like, I spend the first quarter of my life learning and then I just do.
It's part of why Dorsey wants to empower people to build their own businesses and not get attached to jobs that might soon disappear. Despite a shift in work that will inevitably impact towns like Webster City, there's a sense of pride here.
Do you worry about a future where automation and AI take some of those jobs?
I mean, yeah, AI and automation, they may be precise, but they'll never outdo the strongness and the willingness of the American worker.
What's your message for the tech community?
This country was built on blood, sweat, and tears, not microchips, gold-plated circuit boards, and everything else. One thing I know for sure from living in a small town is if you knock us down, we're going to get back up and we're going to be twice as better.
There's a reckoning happening in Silicon Valley. As technology has the power to replace workers, tech leaders must think about how to prepare the public so that the technology created in their own backyard doesn't leave people more divided. Dorsey isn't alone. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg has also spent part of his year sitting down with workers from all around the country. And tech leaders are increasingly talking about universal basic income. It's a concept that's still being fleshed out, but the idea is that everyone in the country would get a monthly stipend from the government. While Silicon Valley is mostly in favor, I wondered if the people most likely to need that money felt the same way. I met up with Jerry Clobberdans. He worked at Electrolux for 32 years, where he was also a union leader.
Come on in.
Great. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for coming. If you have people sitting at home, that's not much of an existence. I think people need to have a reason to get out of bed in the morning. Cash sitting on a counter is not necessarily a reason to get out of bed in the morning. You also like to know that it has a benefit to somebody else, that I made a difference.
As I spent more time in Webster City, it became clear that Electrolux was more than just a paycheck for these folks. As jobs disappeared, so did a sense of identity.
I think I was lost for a while. Was in a little bit of a daze, didn't really know what to do, didn't really know how to act, and I tried to be myself. You put this facade out for everybody that, like, oh, everything's okay, but everything wasn't okay.
After having met with a lot of you guys and talk about how much your job meant to you, I was thinking about it in my terms of what if I walked in tomorrow and they told me this doesn't exist anymore because my whole identity is wrapped up in storytelling and what I do. I can't imagine what would go through my head.
It's extremely difficult. I mean, some of the things that go through your head, you can't think about.
Like what?
I mean, well, there's, suicide and everything else. I mean, people thought about that,
People thought about suicide?
Oh yeah, because they didn't know what to do. I honestly thought that I would not get another job making over $10 an hour. The thing that I was telling Jack Dorsey about was that we're a small town that experienced, a big factory leaving. I lost a lot of jobs. But there's hundreds of other ones in this country. And those are the ones you worry about also. Not just about Webster City, but look at all these other places that have faced the same devastation. When the factory closed, it wasn't just the people that worked at the factory that felt the impact of it. The whole community did.
This factory went to Mexico, but a lot of these jobs are going to be replaced by automation and robots or artificial intelligence. Does that impact you guys?
Deal with it every day. Every day there's jobs that are getting automated.
Yeah.
But there's somebody has to repair that equipment. You have to program that equipment. You have to operate that equipment.
Yeah.
So it's not like all the jobs are going to go away.
Talking to Jack, he says, you know, we need to rethink and we need to kind of get in front of it. I would push that even farther and say we need to challenge our tech leaders to rethink it. We need to challenge our government to come up with some creative solutions for the change that's about to happen. But it is special to see, you know, people come into these towns and pay attention, because you just get the feeling that these people just want to be heard and seen and know that their work and who they are matters.
Before I left town, Jeff invited me to dinner with his family.
Or flyover day.
If you look up in the sky, there's always streaks. They're not coming down. They're
What does that
going
mean
by.
to you guys?
I want Iowa to make it like big, because like nobody really pays attention. Like we do stuff. We do a lot of stuff here. We're a farm community, but like we still do big things. We make big waves.
Midway into dinner, Jeff got a call.
See, I turned down my volume.
Trey Nelson, Webster Theater. This is Jeff. The movie isn't? Okay. I'll be there in less than 5 minutes.
A glitch in the film playing, and a welcome problem for a community who got their theater back.
What does that theater being open mean to you personally?
That's my enjoyment. When the Marquis was lit up, it was fantastic. It was so cool. You know, it was neat. Sorry.
Why is it so emotional?
Well, because it was something that we needed. It represented, I think, a rebirth of Webster City, that we weren't going to give up. We weren't going to dry up and blow away. We were going to stay here. We would become as successful as we could. Now, was that going to mean that we're going to be as successful as we used to be? I don't know. I'm hopeful that we will.